Ever stood up from your favorite chair and felt like your knees were auditioning for a horror movie? Your legs wobble like they've never met you. Your arms feel like they took the day off. And that walk from the kitchen to the couch suddenly feels like a pilgrimage. No sharp pain, no warning, just your body quietly whispering. We're fading and everyone around you shrugs and says, well, you're just getting older. But here's the inconvenient truth. Aging isn't what's making you weak. Sarcopenia is, it sounds like a villain from a Greek tragedy, but it's far more common and far sneakier. Sarcopenia is age-related muscle loss, not the kind that screams, the kind that slowly erases your strength, like a pencil rubbing against time. And the wildest part, it's not just time that's doing this to you, it's your habits. Quiet, everyday ones, like sitting too long, skipping breakfast, or sipping tea instead of water. Tiny rituals that send one message to your muscles: you're no longer needed, and muscles bless them, believe you. So in this video, we're not just going to whisper sweet nothings to your biceps. We're going to drag 8 everyday habits into the light, expose how they weaken you, and most importantly, show you how to stop the decline before your thighs file for early retirement. You don't need to become young again, you just need to stop giving your strength away. Habit 1. Sugar, the sweet assassin that smiles while it stabs. Let's talk about sugar. Not in a cute way, like, oh, you sweeten my tea. No, sugar is that charming guest who shows up with flowers and leaves with your kidneys, your balance, and your dignity. It starts innocently. A biscuit with tea, a little jam on toast, a low-fat yogurt with enough hidden sugar to spike a rhinoceros. You're not eating cake for breakfast, you're just nibbling. You're civilized, but sugar doesn't care about your manners. Because here's what it's really doing. It's staging a slow-motion robbery of your muscles. When you eat refined sugar things like pastries, soda, healthy cereals, or even that low-fat blueberry yogurt, you spike your blood sugar. Your body, in its sweet panic, floods itself with insulin. And if you do this daily, that insulin turns into chronic inflammation. Now, inflammation isn't just a hot word on wellness blogs. It's the cellular equivalent of a never-ending argument at a family dinner. Loud, unproductive, and exhausting. Over time, this inflammation silences muscle repair, weakens your recovery after walking or climbing stairs, and interferes with muscle protein synthesis, the literal building of your strength. So you might go for a walk and think, I'm doing everything right. But if your bloodstream is a syrupy mess, your muscles can't rebuild, they can barely hang on. And here's the part most people miss. Sugar creates oxidative stress. Imagine your muscles rusting from the inside. That's what free radicals do after a sugar binge. Over time, that internal rust creates fatigue, weakness, and soreness. Even without injury, you're not just tired, you're oxidized. Now here's where the spiritual part comes in. In Buddhism, craving is the first arrow. We reach for sweetness to comfort ourselves. For the elderly, especially those dealing with loneliness, grief, or boredom, sugar is often a replacement ritual for connection. It's not just food, it's a hug disguised as a cookie. But there's a second arrow, what we do to ourselves after the craving. We overeat, we regret, and then we numb the regret with more sweetness. The cycle of suffering isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like a glazed donut and a polite smile. Here's a better way. You don't have to become a monk, you just have to stop lying to your pancreas. Try these. Switch your morning yogurt for plain Greek yogurt and add a handful of berries. Swap soda or juice with sparkling water, plus lemon or mint. Use cinnamon instead of sugar in your oatmeal. Read labels like you're reviewing a contract. Watch out for corn syrup, maltodextrin, or anything ending in OC, glucose, sucrose, fructose, and yes, even natural sugars like honey and dates should be treated like house guests, welcome in small doses, not invited to move in. Because sugar doesn't just feed your cravings, it steals your strength and leaves behind a sticky note that says, blame aging. Don't fall for it. You're not falling apart, you're just being misled by something that wears a sweet face and carries a crowbar. You don't have to quit sweetness, just stop worshipping it. The next time you're reaching for that mid-afternoon treat, ask yourself, is this a moment of joy or just a slow surrender in a shiny wrapper? Habit 2, dehydration. You're not aging, you're just becoming beef jerky. Let's talk about water, not in the poetic life begins in water kind of way. More like your muscles are shriveling up like forgotten lettuce in the back of the fridge because you haven't had a glass of plain water since Nixon left office. Here's the truth. Your muscles are made of 75% water, not coffee, not cola, not that third cup of Earl Grey water. And yet many seniors treat hydration like a hobby. They gave up in their 50s. You ask, are you drinking enough? And the answer is always the same. Oh sure, I had tea with breakfast, juice at lunch, and a sip of soda with dinner. That's not hydration. That's a slow diuretic drip disguised as hydration. Tea and soda don't hydrate you. They quietly flush your cells like they're being evicted. And when your muscles dry out, guess what happens? They cramp like tortured violin strings. They lose flexibility and strength. They become prone to injury. They recover slower than dial-up internet. You feel tired, tight, and older than you are. Now here's where it gets spiritual. In Buddhist psychology, right, attention is one of the Eightfold Path practices. It means noticing what's arising in the body and mind. But most of us are so distracted, we don't even notice we're thirsty until we're dizzy, crabby, and wondering why our legs feel like soggy pretzels. By the time you feel thirst, your body is already in panic mode. That's like checking your gas tank after the car stalls. Hydration is about awareness and respect. Your body is a temple. Don't let the holy water run dry. Let's also look at the quiet damage, poor circulation. Without enough water, your blood thickens. It becomes like traffic in a small town after a snowstorm. Slow, sluggish, confused. This means less oxygen, fewer nutrients, and slower muscle repair. Your legs aren't lazy, they're underfunded. But here's the good news. Water is still free. You don't need a detox juice or Himalayan glacier melt. Just clear, honest, unflavored water. Start with a glass when you wake up. Another before each meal. Carry a bottle. Take a sip every time you check your phone. Think of water like your muscles' love language. If you ignore it, they'll ghost you. And if you need a little flavor drama toss in, cucumber slices, lemon or lime wedges, mint leaves, a few frozen berries. Just don't let your hydration plan rely on coffee and hope. Now here's the Ram Dass moment. You are not your body, but you are responsible for how you treat it while you're renting it. And that body, dear one, is made mostly of water, not excuses. So the next time you feel stiff, tired or foggy, before you reach for more snacks or meds, ask the holiest question of all. When was the last time I just drank some damn water? Because if you're feeling dried up, brittle or emotionally crispy, you might not need a life change. You might just need a glass of forgiveness with a twist of lemon. Habit 3, avoiding strength. The myth of the fragile senior is killing your legs. Let me guess, you've been told to take it easy. Maybe after you turned 60, someone lovingly said, "Oh, don't strain yourself. Let us do that for you." And so you sat down and stayed seated. And then one day, getting back up felt like climbing Mount Regret. Now listen carefully. You are not fragile. You are just out of practice. Somewhere along the way, society decided that senior meant soft, gentle, and incapable of lifting anything heavier than a houseplant. And while that might sound compassionate, it's actually a subtle kind of muscle murder, death by politeness. Let's be blunt, when you stop using your muscles, they leave quietly, with no goodbyes. They don't file complaints. They don't stage a protest. They just dissolve like an old email account. Here's the science after age 30. We lose 3–5% of muscle mass per decade. After 60, that rate doubles unless you actively fight it. And no, I don't mean signing up for CrossFit or flipping tires in a parking lot. I mean simple resistance. Now here's the psychological twist. Many elders avoid strength training, not because they're lazy, but because they've been conditioned to fear effort. The body forgets, but the mind remembers the fall, the ache, the hospital bill. So we shrink our movement to match our fear. In Buddhism, there's a word for this aversion: avoiding what is uncomfortable, even when it's exactly what will liberate you. You don't need to be fearless, you need to be willing. Start by standing up from a chair without using your hands. That's a squat. Walk upstairs and use your muscles. Not momentum, that's leg day. Do slow, mindful wall push-ups. That's upper body resistance. Strength doesn't start in the gym. It starts the moment you say, "I'm not done needing this body yet." Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Harold, retired postman, 83. Stopped doing anything physical because he didn't want to get hurt. Then one day, he did fall just standing up too fast, broke his wrist, spent 6 months in recovery, but something changed in him during that time. He realized the very thing he was avoiding. Strength was the one thing that could have saved him. So he started with 5 wall push-ups, then 10. He began squatting in his hallway while waiting for toast. A year later, he could lift grocery bags again. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "I stopped dying the moment I started resisting gravity again." That's not poetry. That's physiology with a soul. Look, nobody's asking you to become a bodybuilder, but unless you're training to become a ghost, you need muscle, because it's not just about appearance. It's about freedom. It's about not needing help to stand, to walk, to live on your terms. Muscles are not vanity. They're mobility, dignity, and rebellion. So yes, you might feel stiff at first. Yes, you might sweat a little. And yes, someone might look at you funny when you lift a milk jug 12 times in a row. In the kitchen, let them. You're not doing this for them, you're doing this. So your legs don't give your spirit an eviction notice. Habit 4, fear of falling. The prison disguised as protection. Let's talk about one of the most common and most invisible causes of muscle loss in old age. Fear. Not loud, dramatic fear. Not "there's a bear in the kitchen" fear. No, this is the quiet, polite fear. The kind that whispers, "Maybe I shouldn't try that. What if I fall? I better just stay seated." And just like that, you stop moving. You shrink your range of motion. You avoid stairs. You skip the garden. You stop reaching for the top shelf. You become careful instead of capable. And here's the punchline in trying to prevent falling. You lose the very strength that would have kept you upright. Welcome to the great irony of aging. Fear of falling becomes the very thing that increases your risk of falling. You're not protecting yourself, you're just signing the lease on a smaller and smaller life. Buddhism has a word for this too, dukkha, the suffering we create by clinging to safety, control, or certainty. But life doesn't work that way. You can avoid risk until you become too weak to face it, and that's not peace, that's paralysis. The bird is safest in the cage, Ram Dass might say. But no one remembers the bird who never flew. Here's how this works on a psychological level. Every time you avoid something physical out of fear, your brain records that as danger. And so next time you hesitate more, you wobble more, you trust your body less, and that loss of trust becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's a story for you. There was an older woman named Lila, early 80s, widow, lived alone. After slipping once in the shower, she started using a walker everywhere. No injury, just fear. Soon she wouldn't walk to her mailbox, she'd ask her neighbor to bring it in. Then she stopped cooking, then she stopped dancing. But one day, her daughter brought over a physical therapist, young, enthusiastic, annoyingly chipper. Instead of doing rehab, he asked Lila to stand at the kitchen counter and balance on one foot, just one, for 10 seconds. She scoffed. "What's that going to do?" But she did it, then the other foot, then 2 steps forward. 3 months later, she was walking to the mailbox again. "I didn't need more help." She said, "I needed someone to stop treating me like I was already broken." That's the truth. Your fear is valid, but it doesn't get to be in charge. Here's your new spiritual practice, uncertain movement. Stand without holding the chair. Just for 10 seconds, reach higher than feels safe while watching your breath. Walk barefoot in your living room and feel every step. Let your fear be a companion, not your caretaker, because fear will keep you seated. And seated is just one chapter away from stuck, and stuck is one page away from dependent. And you, dear one, were not born to sit your way into the sunset. So ask yourself, am I still avoiding what scares me? Or am I quietly becoming the thing I was afraid of? The only way out is through, and the only way back to strength is forward. Habit. 5 painkillers. Numbing the pain. Silencing the progress. Let's get something straight. Pain is real. No one's asking you to be a martyr, walk barefoot through gravel, or do yoga with a herniated spine. But here's the problem. Many seniors are not treating their pain, they're sedating their lives. You get a little ache, so you reach for a pill, maybe ibuprofen, maybe acetaminophen, maybe something a little stronger the doctor gave you last winter, that you're still rationing like it's the last aspirin on earth. And sure, it helps, until you take it again tomorrow and the next day, and suddenly popping a pill becomes as routine as brushing your teeth, except it doesn't clean anything, it just turns off the lights and hopes no one notices the mess. Here's what most people don't realize, painkillers especially, NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, don't just dull pain, they blunt your body's ability to repair itself. See your muscles naturally experience tiny micro tears during movement. That's normal, that's how they grow back stronger. The body responds with a small healing inflammation. But if you take anti-inflammatories every time you move, you block the healing, you mute the messenger. It's like firing the construction crew because you didn't like the sound of hammers. And in Buddhism, that's exactly the lesson. When we avoid discomfort, we avoid transformation. Suffering isn't the enemy clinging to comfort, is you're not healing, you're just going numb. And the kicker, long-term use of painkillers also messes with your liver and kidneys, which process nutrients your muscles need, your gut, which affects vitamin absorption, your brain chemistry, which impacts mood, motivation and movement. In short, you're trading pain today for weakness tomorrow, a fair deal. If your goal is to become a very comfortable paperweight, let me tell you a true story. There was an old war veteran named Joe, tough as nails, had a bad hip and took ibuprofen like it was candy, but he kept getting weaker. He did all the right things, walked daily, ate decently, even did resistance bands, like his daughter showed him, but no progress. Turns out he was blocking the repair process with the very thing he thought was helping. Once he swapped the pills for warm compresses, gentle stretching turmeric tea, and deep breathing, his recovery actually started working. He looked at me and said, "Hell, I didn't need to be painless, I just needed to be a little uncomfortable and not panic." That's the key. Pain isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's just your body's way of asking for attention, not suppression. So what can you do instead? Try Epsom salt baths. Use warm compresses or gentle massage. Eat anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric, ginger, and salmon. Do mindful movement instead of avoidance. And ask, am I healing or just hiding? Because strength doesn't grow in silence. It grows in conversation with your body. And sometimes that conversation includes a little pain, not suffering, just sensation with a message. Don't just turn down the volume. Ram Dass might say, listen to the damn song. Habit 6, low protein. Your muscles are starving on a full stomach. Let me describe a common scene. It's breakfast time. You lay out some toast, maybe a banana, a cup of tea, and call it a day. Light, simple, senior-friendly. Maybe for lunch, it's soup and crackers. Dinner, a little rice. Some boiled veggies, you feel full. Satisfied even. You didn't overeat, you were good. And meanwhile, your muscles are in the corner like, excuse me, are we fasting on purpose? Or are we just being neglected because while your stomach might be full, your muscles are quietly starving? Let's cut through the soft lighting and classical music. For a second, most older adults are protein deficient. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because the way we age is rarely paired with how we should eat. As we get older, muscle breakdown accelerates. Think of it like a slow leak in a tire, except instead of air, it's your quadriceps leaving the building. And unless you're actively replacing that muscle with protein and movement, your body goes looking for other fuel. Guess what it chooses? Your existing muscle. That's right. When you eat too little protein, your body cannibalizes its own strength. It's the most ironic buffet ever hosted. You are the meal. Now here's the kicker. Most seniors eat around 50 grams of protein per day. But studies show older adults need closer to 12 to 15 grams per kilogram of body weight. For someone weighing 65 kilos, that's 80 to 100 grams daily. And toast doesn't count. Now, Buddhist psychology teaches that form is emptiness, and emptiness is form which is deep. But when it comes to food, some meals are just empty form, filling the plate but not feeding the body. This isn't about eating like a bodybuilder. You don't need a tub of whey powder or 12 boiled eggs. But you do need to stop treating protein like a side character in your life story. Try this: eggs for breakfast, boiled, scrambled, even snuck into oatmeal, Greek yogurt with nuts instead of that sugary light stuff, beans, lentils, or tofu, if you lean plant-based chicken, fish, or lean meat in small but consistent amounts, protein, smoothie with peanut butter, banana oats, and milk. And if you're thinking that's too much for me, here's the truth. You don't need to eat more. You need to eat smarter. You've earned every wrinkle, every grey hair. Don't let your plate pretend you're still 22 with a college metabolism. Your needs have changed. Your meals should too. Let me tell you about Mrs. Huang. She's 79, used to eat tea and toast every morning, then nap before noon because she felt weak. Once she added 1 egg and a scoop of peanut butter on toast every morning, her energy doubled, her balance improved. She started walking farther. She didn't change her body, she stopped starving it. Your muscles don't need magic, they just need materials. And protein is the bricks and mortar. Ram Dass said we're all just walking each other home. Well, some of us are crawling because our glutes are running on porridge and hope. Don't let politeness or habit keep you weak. Ask your plate, is this feeding my fullness or my freedom? Habit 7, sitting too long. The recliner is not your retirement plan. Let's have a moment of honesty. That recliner, you love the one with the cup holder and the remote pouch. Yeah, it's trying to kill you, not with malice, not dramatically. It doesn't strangle or stab. No, it just gently, lovingly melts your muscles 1 hour at a time, like a toxic relationship that brings you snacks and slowly erases your identity. Because here's what no one tells you about long-term sitting. The body hears silence as surrender. Sit for long enough and your muscles start packing up. Not because they're angry, not even because they're lazy, but because you told them you don't need them anymore. And like good little Buddhists, they let go, your hips tighten, your back slumps, your legs lose mass, and one day you go to stand and your body responds with confusion. Stand, I thought we'd evolved into furniture. Even if you work out in the morning, if you spend the rest of the day in a chair, it's like going to confession and then robbing a bank on the way home. It cancels out. Let's look at the science studies in the journals of gerontology. Show that prolonged sitting accelerates sarcopenia, the age-related muscle loss we've been whispering about this whole video. It also increases fall risk, circulation issues, and mortality. Yes, sitting can literally shorten your life. Now, this doesn't mean you need to run laps around the kitchen every 30 minutes, but you do need to interrupt the stillness. You don't need intensity, you need consistency. Try this. Every 30-40 minutes, stand up, just stand march in place during commercials, do shoulder rolls while waiting for the kettle, walk around the living room during phone calls, stretch your arms toward the ceiling, and thank gravity for its daily resistance training. In Buddhist terms, sitting still can be meditation or it can be stagnation. The difference is awareness. Stillness is divine, Ram Dass might say, but too much of it and you're just furniture with opinions. And here's the hard truth: a sedentary body often becomes a sedentary mind. Less movement means less blood to the brain, less engagement, less emotion. You don't just lose muscle, you lose your fire. Let me tell you about George. George is 76, retired accountant. He loved Sudoku tea and watching the History Channel at full volume, but his legs started going soft. One day, he fell getting out of the chair. Nothing dramatic, just too slow to react, too long spent not reacting. So he started setting a timer. Every 45 minutes, he'd get up and walk to the front door and back. That's it. 2 weeks in, he started taking the stairs again. 1 month later, he ditched his cane. He told me, turns out the chair was training me to leave the world. Don't let comfort become your coffin. The chair isn't your enemy, but stillness without mindfulness is a slow rehearsal for decline. So the next time you sit down, just ask, is this a moment of rest? Or a quiet form of resignation? Your legs haven't abandoned you, they're just waiting to be remembered. Habit 8, not reaching or bending. When you stop moving, life stops asking you to this one doesn't sound dangerous. No one warns you at 65. Hey, if you stop reaching for things on the top shelf, you might slowly erase your ability to move at all. But here we are. One day you ask someone to grab the laundry basket. The next, your family stops letting you lift anything. Then they start handing you things before you even ask. And eventually you find yourself sitting, watching the world get smaller around you. And the kicker, everyone thinks they're helping. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When you stop reaching, bending, lifting, twisting, your body doesn't just get older. It gets permission to shut down. Your spine stiffens, your shoulders lose range, your hips tighten like an old jar lid no one wants to open. Not because you're broken, but because you stopped reminding your body it was still needed. And the body is obedient like that. In Buddhist practice, we talk about effort, the balance between too much and too little. But most seniors, out of fear or overcare from loved ones, end up doing too little. Not because they want to, but because the world politely takes things out of their hands. Let me tell you about Agnes. Agnes was 82 and perfectly healthy, until she moved in with her adult daughter. Out of love, her daughter did everything for her, cooked, cleaned, carried. A year later, Agnes couldn't lift her arm above her shoulder without pain, not because she was aging rapidly, because her muscles were no longer invited to the party. Here's a Ram Dass-style truth bomb. If you don't use your body, don't be surprised when it files for retirement. Think of every movement, every reach to a high shelf, every bend to tie your shoes as a declaration of life. Not exercise, not a workout, just staying in relationship with gravity. Try this. Reach up and touch a doorframe once a day. Bend down and pick up something small, even if it takes effort. Twist side to side while brushing your teeth. Do calf raises while waiting for the kettle to boil. Sit on the floor sometimes, even if it's awkward to get up, especially if it's awkward. Because here's what no one tells you. Convenience is corrosive. The less you do, the less you're able to do, and the more others do for you, the less your body believes in itself. And this isn't about pride or stubbornness, it's about survival with dignity, it's about not outsourcing your aliveness. In elderly psychology, we call it functional decline. In spiritual terms, it's the slow death of agency. But the good news is, every time you reach, bend, stretch, lift, you're telling your muscles, I'm still here, don't leave. So before you wave off help next time, pause. And instead of asking, can someone do this for me? Ask, can I try this first? Because the only thing scarier than falling is living in a world where your body has stopped expecting you to try. So here we are. 8. Quiet habits. None of them evil, most of them cozy, familiar. The kind of things that sneak into your days wearing fuzzy slippers and good intentions. But here's the hard truth, wrapped in a soft robe. The body listens. If you stop using it, it stops expecting to be used. If you stop feeding it, it starts feeding on itself. If you stop moving, it assumes you're done with the world. But the beautiful part, you can start again today with something as small as a glass of water, a single squat, an egg at breakfast, or saying no thank you when someone offers to carry your groceries for you. You don't need to become strong like you were at 30. You just need to remind your muscles you're still here. Because every time you sit up straighter, walk 10 extra steps, or lift something with presence, you're saying, I'm not fading, I'm not done. I'm still in this body and it's still mine. Aging isn't weakness, it's negotiation. And strength isn't lost, it's just waiting to be re-invited. So, what will you do today that tells your body we've still got places to go?